good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you listen to the Writing Glitch podcast. It's great to have you here today. I am so excited that we have puppets here today, and on your screen you're going to see Carol Rhodes and Linnea Smith, and we are going to talk a little bit about why they have puppets and what they're doing to help kids with their literacy. Welcome to the podcast, ladies.
Thank you.
Miss Alice says hi too.
And so does Silly Ball.
So we have Estelle and Silly Ball.
Miss Alice.
Miss Alice.
Miss Alice. Miss Alice and Silly Ball. So for those of you who are listening and not hearing the podcast, we have Miss Alice is what?
She teaches the first sound. The sound is short A. She's a sheep. And she says, ah.
Ah. And the other one, oh gosh, it went out of my head already.
Silly Ball works with syllable scientists to teach our students about syllables and how to break words into syllables that they can then read based on the patterns of vowels and consonants.
Fascinating. Why are you making noise on my computer? Oh, so having that sound come in. I'm sorry about that. So, Carol, tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you? How did this whole puppet thing get started? Tell us.
Well, many decades ago, I started a tutoring service and found through that service that there were so many people that couldn't read well. And I ended up writing my own science of reading program based on Orton Gillingham about 30 plus years ago. And I kept finding that getting people to use it with efficacy and consistently was very difficult. And the cost of training for schools, they couldn't afford to keep up with keeping the teachers trained. They would lose teachers, and then you had to start over. So I was driving in my car literally one day and said, if I could create a program that trained the teacher or the parent at the same time that the kids learn to read with videos. The videos are very short. They're only 5 to 7 minutes long. They have these puppets, animation, and children in them. There are no adults at all in the videos. It starts with the sound of short A. You go through the consonants and short vowels, get into blends, digraphs, and so forth. And eventually in season 3, there are 77 episodes over 4 seasons. They get to syllables. And by the final episode, the students are dividing the word antidisestablishmentarianism to illustrate that it doesn't matter how long the word is. If you understand the process of how words are broken up into syllables and the rules to follow, you can read virtually anything. So that's
that
what
word.
happened.
It's like one of those supercalifragilisticexpialidocious words, isn't it?
Well, we thought we probably couldn't use that. It was probably copyrighted. So we decided to go with a word that we could use.
Yes. My dad likes that word, by the way. So it's interesting that you've chosen that. Anyway,
it's a vocabulary development piece as well. You know, the students learn what that word means and sort of where it comes from. We get a mini history lesson in there if the kids are interested.
a little bit of U.S. and world history all in one. You know,
yeah.
And in season 4, Miss Perfect and the Minerva the Wise Owl talk, and Miss Perfect tells the children that the system is just perfect. But Minerva the Wise Owl explains that there's going to be some words, some pieces in the words that aren't going to fit perfectly, and that's okay. They can use context clues, they can use a dictionary, spell check, to reassure the kids that nothing is perfect And it's okay if there's a piece that doesn't fit.
It's okay to not know the answer, kids.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We all make mistakes and we learn from them.
Yeah. And so what's the name of this program, Carol?
Richard's Learning Systems is the organization, and Sammy and the Magical Reading Chest is the program's name for the 77 episodes. This is Chef Cookie, and Chef Cookie teaching blend, and she has a whisk that she uses in the episode, and a B and R go into the bowl through animation. She stirs it around, and out pops BR so that they learn about blends.
And this is Sophie, who teaches non-phonetic words, because there are some words that we just can't read. We call them red words. And those words we use arm tapping so that they're saying the letter names instead of sounding out the words. And
So
this little girl is...
So would that be like the word the?
Yes. Yes. THE, the. And that's actually the first non-phonetic word that we introduced, first red word. There are only 8 words that they have to learn through arm tapping in the first 20 episodes. And that's very deliberate. I always get really upset with the high frequency words, that it confuses students between really knowing what do I have to sound out, or what do I have to know how to spell and read on site, and what can I sound out? Because when you're 5 years old, you can't discriminate that. And by introducing 100 words in kindergarten that I have to memorize, so many of them, and they're decodable words. So now it feels like I have to memorize everything because I can't tell the difference. So that really, that's the one that always gets me. They have to memorize so many words so quickly.
There are only 100 words in the 4 seasons that they have to memorize as red words. There's a few that we miss, but by the time they finish the 4th season, they're pretty confident and it's not so important. I plan on writing an advanced spelling book for the kids that are really more advanced and are curious about the ins and outs of the very complicated spellings in English. But I have really simplified this down to the bare bones so that the kids can read and spell. But for example, the word xylophone, as I was researching X as the Z sound, it's really the only word in addition to a lot of pharmaceutical terms that most people don't need to know.
Okay, then.
So why are we going to worry about that one or Miss Perfect?
Wait till they're in 3rd grade and they want to take the xylophone in band, and that's a purposeful or reason to learn it.
Yes, exactly.
So,
and they should be confident enough by that age to be able to accept that exception.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about you, Carol. What about you, Linnea? How do you fit into this picture?
Well, I am Carol's daughter. So I grew up in the business learning all along. I was a struggling higher level decoder in 7th grade and went through the written version of the program that we've used with older learners because I couldn't divide those big scientific terms when I got to middle school. Even though I was an A student, I was a strong student, and then my comprehension started to take a hit. Fast forward, I got a degree in technical theater and went and worked for a Broadway theater and producing family in New York for about 16 years. COVID brought me back home with the shutdown of Broadway and the indefinite return. Kind of right after she had filmed the first season of Sammy and the Magical Reading Chest, and was working on figuring out how to get the next 3 seasons written and produced. And so the timing felt kind of fortuitous that I got to be here and help give some creative input but it really is her baby. I mean, I can't take credit. I can take credit for Silly Bull and Minerva, but otherwise, these characters are her brainchild. Miss Alice and the other short vowel puppets have been around for 30 years. They were sock puppets originally, and then they sort of amazingly were transformed into these wonderful puppets by Lindsay Stanley, who voices all of the puppets, with the exception of a few.
Yes.
Kyle Stanley, who was her husband and was the director of the Sammy series, voices the other characters. So we have to give credit to them for their incredible work.
So you don't voice any of them?
No. We went and were consulting to make sure they were saying the sounds correctly, and if there were details that needed to be altered, I wrote the scripts, and then they kind of prettied them up a little for their needs, and we filmed over 3 summers. We finished the final 17 episodes of summer, and they're still in production. So season 4 isn't out yet, but season 3 is. So.
Mm-hmm. Now we're 59 episodes published.
Yeah, where can they find them?
Sure. If you go to the website Richards Learning Systems, plural, Richards is plural, learning is singular, and systems is plural, richardslearningsystems.com. That will take them to our website, and then they can subscribe to the annual seasons. You purchase a subscription for 1 year, gives you access to one season, which works out to about 20 episodes. Later seasons are a few fewer. They get all the multisensory materials that are modeled in the videos. They get their felt boards, bumpy letter cards with a green Go dot. They get their magic boards, a workbook, and importantly, they get a Sammy book bag to keep all of those materials. And they get the short vowel puppets. Not this version. I'm sorry to say not this version, but they get these really soft short vowel puppets. Hand puppets for the students to use at home to reinforce those sounds and skills.
I love it. So we met at the International Dyslexia Association conference back in October. And at the time, I kept kidding you about using your thumb. Remember that?
I know.
and so
it's so hard.
And it is very hard. And I don't know that today I could even do it. My thumbs are really giving me some issues. But so the reason I bring that up is because I wanted to share a little bit about why I know that and why I was kidding you about that. And that is because my son and his best friend in high school were puppeteers. They actually wrote a program and they presented it at 4th and Penn, which is in Reading, Pennsylvania, is like downtown center square kind of area. Mm-hmm. Every Friday, once a month, it was every Friday, I guess, over the summer, they would have farmers markets. So they kind of had all of these vendors show up during lunchtime and then disperse after lunch. And one of the girls that was helping them was unable to attend. And Mom, can you do this? Totally. My hand was going like this. The puppets were talking up in the air instead of to the kids. I was having such a struggle. But the technology that they were using behind the curtain was blowing my mind. They had iPads that they had the scripts on, and they really went all out for these kids. And so one of they got to learn a lot about puppetry, and my son started repairing puppets. So you guys have right now you have one up that has a little mustache. He figured out and learned how to stitch it and put the mustache back on and things like that. So that's the background and why I knew a little bit about puppetry. And so I just wanted to interject that so that the listeners have an idea of the connection, how we met, and why I love puppets and how they help kids with learning. Some of the scripts that they were writing were more biblical. They were writing Bible stories a lot, so they did a lot in churches too. So who is this guy that just showed up on the screen?
This is Consonant Man, and he dresses in a different outfit for each consonant. And he's vetted a zookeeper in this particular outfit for Z.
Oh, that's a Z.
Yes.
Okay.
Vetted a zookeeper.
Okay,
but he's a baseball player, a mailman. He's a swami with a friendly snake. He's a football player. He's a rock star. He has Rocky, a guard dog with him that says, "What?" So he's a different consonant. For each consonant, he has a different costume instead of having different ones, different puppets.
Love it. Love it. And who's peering between you? He's waving.
Oh.
He's graduating.
Sure. This is Professor Underwood.
Professor. See, I knew he was working on graduation. Oh gosh.
Here's
look
Professor
at him.
Underwood.
Oh
He
man.
teaches the short U sound. You know what we've been finding is that older students are enjoying this too. We have, we talked to a group of refugee immigrants organization that was interested in using it with their adults. We have some high school students that are doing it on their own. I have an 8th grader who was here last week and back again yesterday, meeting with a possible tutor. And I said, I won't be offended if you don't want to use the puppets. He said, no, I love puppets. I love the Muppets. I want to do this one. So, 13 years old, when we typically see the students a little more hesitant about what they're willing to engage with, he was all in.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and because of the syllable pieces in episode 41, there's a review of all the sounds. And then we move into syllables. So if you have an older student, they can start with season 3 and move through the syllables to learn it, which is what we did with adults. We went into companies for about 10 years and taught workers how to read.
That's amazing. So
I actually took the sock puppets into the company and stood in front of 10 macho shop workers with the union steward in the class and said, don't laugh at me, but you'll never forget me with this stupid sock on my hand. And the last time I went in as a troubleshooter for the class, he said, are you going to show us the rest of the puppets before you leave?
Oh.
So it's the way you approach it.
Yeah. So my son's friend now graduated with a music degree and he just got a job at a middle school. And I was asking him whether he was going to introduce puppets. He's like, let me get my feet wet first. But I think that is part of his plan. So he will be sharing that with middle schoolers in my area. Now, you guys are from Ohio. Am I correct?
Yes. Correct. Yes. I have to sort of point out, we do have Maestro here. So like you talk about here's Maestro with this little
dancing contractions.
Yeah, he teaches dancing contractions. And I have finger spelling hand here. So when they're learning to blend sounds together to make words. So we have and an.
So do the letters like Velcro on and off that you can change letters on that?
Yep. Little dots to get them on. And then we have, some words that have a blend. So it's a single finger to a single consonant blend.
And that's stirred together, just like when Chef Cookie stirs in the bowl, you stir your finger to remind you it's a blend.
Interesting. And you're getting people to read no matter what age they are.
Yes.
How are you incorporating writing skills into your program?
Well, in the workbooks, there is tracing practice. So then initially they're tracing the letter names and saying the sound as they trace it, and they're tracing words. And in the books, there are what I call starbursts that remind the teachers to have the students write on their felt boards in the sky, like Jet Pilot Sky writes with the kids, or finger spell the words. There's lots of spelling practice within the episodes, encouraging the kids to not read only, but also write what they're learning.
And then there are also some sentence frames, start with a capital letter and end with a punctuation mark at the bottom of some of the practice pages. So we're starting to very gently introduce the idea of a subject and a predicate and building sentences with the words that they're learning. I also want to just sort of mention everything in the workbooks following Science of Reading is controlled vocabulary. So the students are only being presented with concepts that have been introduced directly through the concepts. In the backs of the workbooks, there's a list of all of the words that are introduced by concept for the teacher, for the parent to be able to go back and reference to give those students additional practice.
And there's lots of games in the workbooks to encourage the kids to have fun when they're learning the skills. And there's a list of all the games. So if the parent wants the kid to do a game, or the child wants to do a game over and over again, that tells them where they are instead of having to flip through the book.
And then I'm not sure, were you asking about handwriting as well, sort of the fine motor piece?
Whatever part of writing that you can work on, because it all goes together. The dysgraphia is really that higher level writing skill of being able to put things together. It's not just letters.
Right. So we start with those bumpy letter cards and the felt boards so that they're getting that sensory input as they're forming the letters. They're saying the letter sounds when they form them. So they're getting that dual input.
But in episode 2, they're already writing the word at. So they're immediately spelling words as they get sounds. So you have at and then sat and then mat and tam. And some of the words are going to be unfamiliar to them. And they're either explained in the videos or at the bottom of workbook pages. There are the teacher notes that give the teacher a definition, simple definition that the child or the kids are curious about what the word means. They don't have to go, that word means. It's given to them. There is no teacher's guide at all. All the notes and information are at the bottom of workbook pages for the teacher. In season 4, it says either to the teacher or to the student, because by then the students are reading well enough to be able to read it too.
Love it. Love it. I love this program. How do they find out about it? You had talked about the learning systems. Mm-hmm. That's a .com, right?
Yes. richardslearningsystems.com. There's a phone number on there if they want to contact us. There's an email link. They can email us. They can register directly through the site and purchase a subscription. If it's if there's a teacher out there who wants it for their classroom, we can customize quotes for school districts. But it's very affordable. After the first year investing in the materials, the renewal is just the cost for the subscription and the next series of workbooks. So the classrooms that are using it year after year, they just need to replace the workbooks. Everything else is reusable.
Okay. All right.
I just want to sort of very directly say, Carol has made such deliberate choices, not only in the creation and design of the program, but in the way that it's available and usable for teachers in classrooms and to create simplicity for the user in home or in school.
We really encourage teachers to spend only 15 minutes a day with it. That's it. It doesn't need to be 45 minutes a day, so that they should be able to find 15 minutes. One of our teachers was frustrated because we have 10 schools in Cleveland, the Cleveland metropolitan schools using it right now. And she was really struggling to figure it out, and she's doing it during her bell time. So 15 minutes isn't very much.
No.
And we have a researcher doing a study of our students with the program in Cleveland. And he's an early literacy specialist, researcher through Brooklyn College. And he confirms, yes, 15 minutes a day is all we need for this program to be effective.
He was the former student and did research with Dr. Linnea, who's a nationally known literacy expert. He actually connected us to Mark Lauterbach, our researcher.
Love it. Love it. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before we head off of here today?
I think we've covered the bulk of it.
Just go to richardslearningsystems.com and learn more about it. There are 3 episodes that you can watch on the website, so that for each season that's available, there's a video that they can see a complete episode and how it works.
I love it.
Oh, I guess I want to point out or mention one other thing. So we've talked a lot about sort of the different people who can use this program, and we didn't touch on the nonverbal students who are using it and finding success with it. I have 2 examples. One, I had a nonverbal autistic young man come in, could not sit at the table for a minute, couldn't put 2 words together. Fast forward 2 years, he's been working intensively with a tutor through our tutoring company, which is separate but adjacent to Richard's Learning Systems. He comes in, he's reading every word on the page, asking to see the puppets, wants to talk about the different characters, and sits and is engaged in a meeting with us for 2 hours. Just the transformation. We have some students in a self-contained classroom, nonverbal, who have been working with the same teacher. It was about 1.5 years in that she was able to record one of them reading a 3-letter word. And they're able to identify the letter sounds and letter names,
both upper and lowercase letters, and 20 letter sounds. Now, it took 2 years for these very low functioning kids, but at the end of the 2nd year, some of them were reading 3 to 5 words.
That's a miracle. That's just a miracle. Congratulations.
We also didn't mention a lot of teachers, and I know the standards say that they need to introduce uppercase letters. Our program doesn't focus on that. And I know as an occupational therapist, you do uppercase letters. We put much less focus on that. But we do have some bumpy letter cards if family really wants those. But we find that they learn to write and read those regardless of having that extra time spent on it.
And the focus is really on the sounds of the letters, not the letter names. And so if you have too many cards and too many things, you're losing the focus of, if you're reading the word SAT, it's at, not SAT. It's really important that they learn to process the sounds together, not the letter names, because you don't read the letter names. Montessori believed in that.
Makes sense. And I'm not saying that capital letters are always the way to start. Sometimes lowercase is a better place to start. Depends on the student. As a matter of fact, most cursive programs start out with lowercase letters.
Right. And I know there are some students who definitely learn better with cursive. We have cursive bumpy letter cards too. So
Yes.
For some of those kids who really do struggle with the hand strength to be able to pick up the pencil.
We even have Denialian printed letters. So we have a variety of different puppy letter cards. And on the backs of the letter cards, we have how you form your mouth when you're producing the sound and pictures of the puppet with the hand cues for the short vowels.
And sign cues on the back as well. So if the students want to learn how
you have thought of everything.
We tried. We had an autistic hearing impaired student, and we added the sign language for that person.
Lovely.
So each time we find something that's missing, we try and incorporate that into what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And over 30 plus years, we figured out a lot of things that needed to be incorporated.
I'm sure you have. Well, this has been The Writing Glitch. I've been here with Carol Richards and Linnea Smith, and they are part of Richards Learning Systems. And okay, I can get the words out. Okay, so they're part here with The Writing Glitch. The Writing Glitch is published the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. Make sure that you click subscribe and let us know what you thought of this episode. Would you like to learn more about puppetry or more about her system? Let us know. Write us a review so that we can learn how these episodes are impacting you. And I want to say thank you to Sam C Productions for post-production of this podcast. This has been Sherry Dotterer signing off from The Writing Glitch. And thank you for being here today, Linnea and Carol.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.